The massive starship Endeavour hung silently in orbit around the alien world of Zerika, its sleek hull reflecting the pale blue light of the planet's twin moons. Inside the ship's diplomatic quarters, Commander Sarah Chen took a deep breath, steeling herself for the mission ahead. "Final systems check complete, Commander," the ship's AI announced. "The shuttle is prepped and ready for launch." Sarah nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling storms visible on the planet's surface. "Thank you, ARIA. Any last-minute intel on our hosts?" A holographic display flickered to life, showing towering, muscular humanoids with iridescent skin and fierce expressions. "The Zerkarians remain an enigma," Commander ARIA replied. "Our scans confirm their average height at approximately 3 meters. Their civilization appears to be a mix of advanced technology and a warrior-based culture. Caution is advised." Sarah chuckled darkly. "When isn't it?" She stood, smoothing out the creases in her dress uniform. At 1.75 meters, she knew she'd be dwarfed by the aliens. But humanity hadn't come this far by being intimidated by size alone. As she made her way to the shuttle bay, Sarah's mind raced through the events that had led to this moment. First contact with the Zerkarians had been tense, to say the least. Their massive warships had appeared without warning at the edge of human space, prompting a military response. It was only through frantic last-minute negotiations that all-out war had been averted. Now, humanity was sending its best and brightest diplomat to secure a lasting peace. Sarah allowed herself a wry smile at the thought. She was a soldier, not a silver-tongued negotiator. But she had volunteered for this mission, knowing the stakes all too well. The shuttle hummed to life as Sarah strapped herself in. "Good luck, Commander," Aria's voice echoed through the comm. "Remember, you carry the hopes of humanity with you." "No pressure," Sarah muttered as the shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the yawning void of space. The descent through Zerka's atmosphere was turbulent, the shuttle bucking against fierce winds and electrical storms. Sarah's knuckles whitened as she gripped the controls, guiding the craft towards the designated landing zone. As the clouds parted, her breath caught in her throat. A vast city sprawled beneath her, its architecture a blend of soaring crystal spires and ancient stone pyramids. At the city's heart stood a massive Colosseum-like structure, its walls adorned with glowing symbols and pulsing with an otherworldly energy. The shuttle touched down on a landing pad adjacent to the Colosseum. As the engines powered down, Sarah could see a delegation of Zerkarians approaching. Their massive frames and rippling muscles made them look like living statues, their skin shimmering with patterns that seemed to shift and change. Taking one last deep breath, Sarah activated the shuttle's exit ramp and stepped out into the alien world. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth standard, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. But it was breathable, and that was all that mattered. The lead Zerkarian, towering over Sarah by a good 4 feet, stepped forward. Its eyes, a swirling mix of gold and violet, regarded her with an unreadable expression. "I am Zorax, High War Master of the Zerkarian Dominion," the alien's voice boomed, a translator device around its neck converting the words to English. "You stand on sacred ground, human. Why should we not crush you where you stand?" Sarah met the alien's gaze unflinchingly. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of Earth, representing the United Human Colonies. I come seeking peace between our peoples." A rumble that might have been laughter rippled through the Zerkarian delegation. Zorvak's expression remained impassive. "Peace. You send a warrior to speak of peace." "Sometimes," Sarah replied carefully, "it takes a warrior to truly understand the value of peace." Zorax was silent for a long moment, studying Sarah with those unsettling eyes. Finally, it nodded. "You speak with wisdom, human, but words alone are not enough. If you seek peace with the Zerkarian people, you must prove your worth." Sarah's hand instinctively moved towards the ceremonial sword at her hip, a gesture not lost on the aliens. "What do you propose, High War Master?" Zorax's lips curled into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp, metallic teeth. A trial, human. A test of body, mind, and spirit. Should you succeed, we will hear your words of peace. Should you fail, the alien left the consequences unspoken. Sarah knew she was walking into a potential trap. This trial could be nothing more than an elaborate execution, but she also knew that humanity's future might hinge on this moment. She straightened her back, squaring her shoulders as she faced the towering alien. "I accept your challenge, High War Master. Let the trial begin." A murmur of approval rippled through the Zerkarian delegation. Zorax nodded, a gleam of what might have been respect in its alien eyes. "Very well, human. Follow us to the Hall of Trials. There we shall see if your species is truly worthy of treating with the Zerkarian dominion." As Sarah fell and stepped behind the massive aliens, her mind raced. She had expected negotiations, not trials by combat. But she was a soldier, trained to adapt to any situation. Whatever these aliens threw at her, she would face it head-on. For the sake of humanity, failure was not an option. The group approached the towering Colosseum, its walls seeming to pulse with an inner light. As they drew closer, Sarah could make out intricate carvings depicting epic battles and strange, otherworldly creatures. The sheer scale of the structure was breathtaking, dwarfing even the largest stadiums on Earth. "Behold the crucible of ascension," Zorax announced, its voice filled with pride. "For millennia, our greatest warriors have proven themselves within these hallowed walls. Today, human, you shall walk in their footsteps." The massive doors of the Colosseum swung open silently, revealing a shadowy interior. Sarah could hear the faint echoes of chanting and what sounded like a clash of weapons. Her hand once again strayed to her sword, a gesture that did not go unnoticed by her alien escorts. "Your weapon will not be necessary, human," one of the other Zerkarians spoke, its voice a deep rumble. "The trials will provide all that is required." Sarah nodded, forcing herself to relax. "Understood. Lead the way." As they entered the Colosseum, Sarah's eyes struggled to adjust to the dim light. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and something else, something alien and slightly sweet. The chanting grew louder, and Sarah realized it was coming from all around them. Thousands of Zerkarians filled the tiered seating of the arena, their eyes fixed on the small human in their midst. Zorax led them to the center of the arena, where a raised platform stood. As they approached, Sarah saw that the platform was covered in glowing symbols, similar to those on the outside of the Colosseum. They pulsed with an inner light, creating patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. "The Trial of Ascension consists of 3 challenges," Zorax explained, its voice carrying across the now silent arena. "Body, mind, and spirit. You must overcome each to prove your worth, human. Are you prepared?" Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. She thought of Earth, of the colonies, of all that was riding on her success here. "I am ready," she said, her voice steady and clear. Zorax nodded, then raised its massive arms. The crowd erupted in a deafening roar, the very air seeming to vibrate with their enthusiasm. "Then let the trial begin," the High War Master bellowed. The glowing symbols on the platform flared to life, and Sarah felt a strange tingling sensation throughout her body. She looked down to see her dress uniform shimmer and change, transforming into a sleek, form-fitting suit of what looked like liquid metal. "The armor of trials," Zorax explained. "It will adapt to each challenge, providing only what is necessary. No more, no less." Before Sarah could respond, the platform beneath her feet began to shift and change. The glowing symbols swirled and coalesced, forming a new pattern. Suddenly, the ground dropped away, and Sarah found herself falling into darkness. She landed with a splash in what felt like water, but was far more viscous. The liquid glowed faintly, providing just enough light for her to see that she was in some kind of underground chamber. The walls were smooth and featureless, offering no handholds or escape routes. "The first trial tests the strength of your body," Zorax's voice echoed from above. Survive, and you may proceed. As if on cue, the liquid began to churn and bubble. Sarah felt something brush against her leg, then another touch on her arm. Her eyes widened as she saw shapes moving beneath the surface, long, sinuous forms that circled her like sharks. Well, Sarah muttered to herself, readying for a fight. Nobody said this would be easy. As the creatures lunged for her, Sarah's training kicked in. She dove and twisted, using the strange properties of the liquid to her advantage. The suit adapted, becoming sleeker and more hydrodynamic. Sarah found she could move with surprising speed and agility. The battle was fierce and exhausting. For what felt like hours, Sarah fought against the relentless assault of the alien creatures. Her muscles burned, her lungs ached, but she refused to give up. With each successful evasion or counterattack, she felt herself growing stronger, more in tune with the strange environment. Finally, as Sarah dispatched the last of her attackers, the liquid began to drain away. She found herself standing on solid ground once more, battered but unbroken. The platform rose, carrying her back to the main arena. The crowd of Zerkarians roared their approval as Sarah emerged, their alien faces a mix of surprise and grudging respect. Zorax stepped forward, its expression unreadable. "You have passed the trial of body, human," the High War Master announced. "But 2 challenges remain. Steel yourself, for the trial of mind may prove even more perilous." As the platform began to shift once more, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. She had survived the first challenge, but she knew the true test was yet to come. Whatever these aliens threw at her next, she would face it with the same determination and courage that had carried humanity to the stars. The fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance, and Sarah Chen was ready to fight for peace, no matter the cost. Trial of mind. The arena shimmered around Sarah, the air rippling like heat waves on a summer day. As the distortion cleared, she found herself standing in what appeared to be a vast library. Towering shelves stretched as far as the eye could see, filled with books, scrolls, and strange crystalline data storage devices. "The trial of mind begins," Zorax's voice echoed through the space. "Here, human, you must navigate the labyrinth of knowledge. Find the nexus of wisdom, and you may proceed. But beware, the path is treacherous, and not all knowledge is meant for mortal minds." Sarah took a deep breath, eyeing the endless rows of information before her. "Any hints on where to start?" she asked, half-jokingly. Silence was her only answer. The High War Master and the arena had vanished, leaving Sarah alone in the vast repository. "Right," she muttered. "No hints, just like the Academy survival courses." Sarah began to walk, her footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. As she passed the shelves, titles written in alien script seemed to shimmer and change, occasionally resolving into English. "A History of Galactic Conflicts," one tome proclaimed. "Quantum Entanglement and its Applications in Faster-than-Light Travel," declared another. The temptation to stop and read was almost overwhelming. Sarah's scientific curiosity warred with her military training, but she pressed on, knowing that this was as much a test of focus as it was of intellect. As she delved deeper into the library, Sarah began to notice patterns in the arrangement of the books. Certain topics seemed to cluster together, forming a kind of conceptual map. She realized that the library itself was a physical representation of the interconnectedness of knowledge. Hours seemed to pass as Sarah navigated the twisting paths between the shelves. The air grew thick with the scent of old paper and ozone. Occasionally, she would catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of her eye, shadowy figures that vanished when she turned to look. Finally, Sarah emerged into a circular clearing. At its center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a pulsing orb of light. This, she realized, must be the nexus of wisdom. As Sarah approached the pedestal, the orb flared to life. Images and symbols began to swirl within it, moving faster and faster until they became a blur. To claim the wisdom of the nexus, a disembodied voice intoned, "You must answer 3 riddles. But be warned, the price of failure is oblivion. Sarah steeled herself. I'm ready, she said firmly. The voice spoke again, its tone ancient and inscrutable. I am the beginning of eternity, the end of time and space, the beginning of every end, and the end of every place. What am I? Sarah's mind raced. The riddle seemed to dance on the edge of her consciousness, tantalizing and just out of reach. She closed her eyes, forcing herself to slow down and think. The beginning of eternity, the end of time and space, she muttered. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open. It's the letter E, she exclaimed. The orb pulsed, a feeling of approval washing over Sarah. Correct, the voice intoned. The second riddle. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I? This one came to Sarah more quickly. Her time on ships had given her a keen appreciation for the power of communication. An echo, she answered confidently. Again, the orb pulsed with approval. Correct, the final riddle. The more you take, the more you leave behind. What am I? Sarah frowned. This one was trickier. She paced around the pedestal, her mind working furiously. What could you take that would leave more behind? Her thoughts drifted to her journey through the library, the winding path she had taken. Footsteps, she exclaimed. The answer is footsteps. The orb flared brightly, bathing Sarah in warm, golden light. You have answered wisely, human, the voice said. The wisdom of the Nexus is yours. The orb rose from the pedestal and floated towards Sarah. As it touched her forehead, a flood of information poured into her mind. Glimpses of alien worlds, advanced technologies, and the vast sweep of galactic history flashed before her eyes. When the vision cleared, Sarah found herself back in the arena. The Zerkarians were watching her with a new intensity, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Zorax stepped forward, its expression a mix of surprise and respect. You have passed the trial of mind, human, the High War Master said. Few have navigated the labyrinth of knowledge so swiftly, but do not let pride cloud your judgment. The final trial yet awaits. Sarah nodded, her mind still reeling from the influx of knowledge. I'm ready for whatever comes next, she said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. The High War Master's eyes seemed to bore into her. We shall see, human, we shall see. For the trial of spirit will test not just your strength or your intellect, but the very core of your being. As the arena began to shift once more, Sarah took a deep breath. She had faced the physical challenges of the Zerkarians and navigated their tests of intellect, but she knew that the true test lay ahead. Whatever the trial of spirit entailed, it would demand everything she had, and perhaps more. The air shimmered, and Sarah found herself standing on a narrow bridge of light, suspended in an endless void. Stars twinkled in the distance, and galaxies swirled beneath her feet. The vastness of the cosmos stretched out around her, beautiful and terrifying in its immensity. Welcome, Sarah Chen of Earth, to the cosmic crucible, a voice echoed through the void. It was not Zorax this time, but something older, vaster, a voice that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space-time. The trial of spirit is not a test that can be overcome with strength or cleverness alone, the voice continued. Here, you must face your deepest fears, your most cherished hopes, and the truths that lie at the core of your being. Sarah swallowed hard, her heart pounding. I understand, she said, her voice small in the vastness of space. Then let the trial begin. The bridge beneath Sarah's feet began to pulse with energy. Images flickered to life around her, scenes from her past, possible futures, and realities that might have been. She saw Earth, consumed by war and environmental disaster. She witnessed humanity's extinction, their great civilizations crumbling to dust. But she also saw hope, humans and aliens working together, exploring the cosmos, building wonders beyond imagination. These are the paths that lie before your species, the voice said. The choices you make here will shape the destiny of not just humanity, but of all sentient life in the galaxy. Sarah felt the weight of that responsibility settle on her shoulders. She thought of all those who had entrusted her with this mission, her superiors, her fellow soldiers, the billions of humans who would never know how close they had come to annihilation. "What must I do?" she asked, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "You must choose," the voice replied. "But know that every choice has a price. Are you willing to pay it, Sarah Chen of Earth?" Before Sarah could respond, the images around her coalesced into three distinct paths, each stretching out into the infinite void. The first path glowed with the promise of power. Sarah saw herself leading humanity to dominance over the galaxy, subjugating alien races and bending the cosmos to human will. It was a future of strength and security, but at the cost of humanity's soul. The second path shimmered with the light of knowledge. She saw a future where humans and aliens shared their wisdom freely, unlocking the secrets of the universe together. But with that knowledge came terrible responsibilities and the risk of unleashing forces beyond control. The third path was shrouded in uncertainty. It offered no guarantees, no easy answers. But within its shifting mists, Sarah caught glimpses of a future where humans and aliens stood as equals, facing the challenges of the cosmos side by side. "Choose," the voice commanded. "But choose wisely, for the fate of galaxies hangs in the balance." Sarah closed her eyes, centering herself. She thought of all she had learned, all she had experienced. She remembered the fierce pride of the Zerkarians, the vastness of the labyrinth of knowledge, and the weight of cosmic responsibility. When she opened her eyes, Sarah's gaze was clear and determined. She stepped forward, her choice made. "I choose the path of partnership," she declared, her voice ringing out across the void. "Humanity will neither conquer nor submit. We will stand with the Zerkarians and all other sentient beings as equals, facing whatever the universe throws at us together." For a moment, silence reigned. Then slowly, the void began to fade. Sarah found herself back in the arena, the eyes of thousands of Zerkarians upon her. Zorax stepped forward, its expression unreadable. "You have passed the trial of spirit, Sarah Chen of Earth," the High War Master said. "And in doing so, you have shown us a vision of a future we had not considered." The massive alien knelt before Sarah, bringing its eyes level with hers. "We have much to discuss, human, for it seems that both our peoples have much to learn from each other." As the crowd of Zerkarians erupted in a mix of cheers and confused murmurs, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The real work was just beginning, but she had opened the door to a new era of cooperation and understanding. The fate of galaxies still hung in the balance, but now, at least, they would face that fate together. Cultural exchange. The days following Sarah's triumph in the trials blurred together in a whirlwind of activity. The Zerkarian capital buzzed with excitement and trepidation as news of the humans' success spread. Sarah found herself at the center of a diplomatic storm, shuttling between meetings with alien dignitaries and transmitting reports back to Earth. On the morning of the fifth day, Sarah stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling alien metropolis. The twin suns of Zerika were rising, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold. Despite the beauty before her, Sarah's mind was racing with the challenges ahead. A deep voice interrupted her reverie. "Your thoughts seem as turbulent as the seas of chaos, human." Sarah turned to find Zorax approaching, the massive alien moving with surprising grace for its size. "High War Master," she greeted with a nod. "Just contemplating the task ahead of us. Bringing our peoples together won't be easy." Zorax's metallic teeth glinted in what Sarah had come to recognize as a smile. "Indeed not. But as you proved in the trials, the most worthwhile paths are often the most challenging." Sarah nodded, grateful for the alien's understanding. Over the past few days, she had begun to see beyond Zorax's intimidating exterior, glimpsing a keen mind and a deep sense of honor. "Today marks the beginning of true exchange between our peoples," Zorax continued. "Are you prepared, Sarah Chen of Earth?" Sarah straightened, squaring her shoulders. As ready as I'll ever be, let's make history. The cultural exchange program began in earnest that afternoon. In a vast amphitheater at the heart of the city, humans and Zycarians gathered to share knowledge, art, and traditions. Sarah watched with pride as the first human delegation, scientists, artists, and diplomats, took the stage. Dr. Amelia Rodriguez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, presented her findings on the surprising similarities between human and Zycarian cellular structures. Her theories on convergent evolution across galaxies drew murmurs of interest from the alien crowd. Next, a troupe of human dancers performed a piece that blended classical ballet with modern interpretive dance. The Zycarians watched in fascination as the humans moved with a grace that belied their smaller stature. But it was the music that truly bridged the gap between species. When the Earth Symphony Orchestra began to play, Sarah saw the Zycarians lean forward in their seats, their eyes wide with wonder. The aliens' own music, she had learned, was based on complex mathematical patterns. The emotion and improvisation in human music was entirely new to them. As the last notes faded away, a moment of silence hung in the air. Then, to Sarah's amazement, the Zycarians burst into thunderous applause, the sound shaking the very foundations of the amphitheater. Zoax leaned close to Sarah, its voice filled with awe. "I have witnessed the birth of stars and the death of galaxies," the High War Master said. "But never have I heard anything quite like this." Sarah felt a swell of pride for her species. "Music has a way of touching the soul," she replied, "no matter how different we might seem on the outside." The exchange continued, with Zycarians sharing their own cultural treasures. Sarah watched in amazement as alien artisans demonstrated the creation of living sculptures, plants and crystals that grew and changed in response to thought patterns. Zycarian scientists presented theories on dark matter manipulation that made even the most advanced human physicists gape in wonder. As the day wore on, Sarah found herself deep in conversation with a Zycarian historian named Krelax. They sat in a quiet corner of the amphitheater, surrounded by holographic displays of both human and Zycarian historical events. "Your species has accomplished much in such a short time," Krelax noted, its multifaceted eyes scanning a timeline of human technological advancement. "From your first steps on your moon to interstellar travel in less than 2 of your centuries. Remarkable." Sarah nodded, studying a display of Zycarian history. "We're an ambitious bunch," she admitted. "Sometimes too much for our own good, but we're learning." Krelax made a sound that Sarah had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "Perhaps that is why the cosmic crucible chose as it did," the historian mused. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "In all our recorded history," Krelax explained, "no being has ever chosen the path you did in the trial of spirit. Always, it has been domination or submission, power or knowledge. But partnership," the alien's eyes seemed to glow with intensity. "You have shown us a new way, Sarah Chen of Earth, one that may reshape the very fabric of galactic society." The weight of those words settled on Sarah's shoulders. She thought back to that moment in the void, facing the 3 paths. Had she really changed the course of galactic history with her choice? Before she could respond, a commotion near the center of the amphitheater caught their attention. A group of Zycarian youth had approached the human delegation, their body language a mix of curiosity and challenge. Sarah tensed, ready to intervene if needed. But to her surprise, the interaction remained peaceful. She watched as a young Zycarian warrior demonstrated a series of complex martial arts moves. In response, a human marine showed off some Krav Maga techniques. Soon, humans and Zycarians were exchanging fighting styles, each marveling at the other's unique approaches to combat. What had started as a potential confrontation had transformed into a vibrant exchange of knowledge. "Remarkable," Krelax murmured. "In my youth, such an exchange would have been unthinkable. We viewed all other species as potential threats or conquests. But this is something new." Sarah smiled, a spark of hope kindling in her chest. That's the beauty of cultural exchange, she said. It helps us see past our differences and recognize our shared experiences. As the day drew to a close, Sarah found herself once again standing beside Zorax, watching as humans and Zerkarians mingled freely, exchanging ideas and forming tentative friendships. "We have taken the first steps on a long journey," Zorax said, its voice carrying a note of both excitement and trepidation. "There will be challenges ahead, misunderstandings to overcome, but I believe we have begun something truly monumental here." Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the future. "Agreed, this is just the beginning. But together, I think we might just reshape the galaxy." As the twin suns of Zerka set, bathing the alien city in a warm golden glow, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything she had experienced before. She had come to this world expecting to fight for peace. Instead, she had found the beginnings of true understanding and cooperation. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but as Sarah watched humans and Zerkarians laughing and sharing stories under an alien sky, she knew that they had taken the first crucial steps towards a brighter future for both their peoples. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and now they will explore it together. Looming threat months passed, and the alliance between humans and Zerkarians grew stronger with each passing day. Joint scientific projects yielded breakthroughs in fields ranging from medicine to propulsion technology. Cultural exchanges fostered understanding and friendship between the two species. Even military cooperation had begun, with human and Zerkarian forces conducting joint training exercises. Sarah Chen, now serving as the official human ambassador to Zeraka, stood in the newly constructed Interspecies Command Center. The vast chamber was a marvel of both human and Zerkarian engineering, its walls lined with holographic displays showing real-time data from across known space. Zorax entered the room, its massive frame casting a shadow over the assembled staff. Ambassador Chen, the High War Master, greeted, "We have a situation." Sarah's brow furrowed. She had learned to read the subtle cues in Zorax's body language, and right now, every fiber of the alien's being radiated tension. "What's wrong?" Zorax gestured to one of the displays. "Our long-range sensors have detected an anomaly at the edge of the Verix Nebula. It appears to be a tear in space-time itself." The display zoomed in on a region of space where reality seemed to be unraveling. Streaks of energy crackled across the void, and the very stars themselves appeared to be warping around the anomaly. "Any idea what's causing it?" Sarah asked, her mind racing through possible explanations. Zorax's expression darkened. "We have our suspicions. There are legends among our people, tales of an ancient race that once ruled this sector of the galaxy. They were said to possess technology capable of manipulating the very fabric of reality." "But they're just legends, right?" Sarah pressed, though she already suspected the answer. The High War Master shook its head slowly. "I fear not. Our archaeologists have uncovered evidence suggesting these beings were all too real. And if they have returned..." The implications hung heavy in the air. Sarah's mind flashed back to her experience in the cosmic crucible, the visions of possible futures. Had this been what awaited them all along? "We need more information," Sarah said decisively. "Can we send a probe through the anomaly?" Zorax nodded. "Our scientists have been working on a device capable of withstanding extreme spatial distortions. It is untested, but given the circumstances..." "Do it," Sarah commanded, "and alert Earth. They need to know what we're dealing with." As the command center burst into activity, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The alliance between humans and Zerkarians was about to face its greatest test. Hours later, Sarah and Zorax stood before a joint council of human and Zerkarian leaders. The mood was tense as they presented their findings. "The probe's data is troubling," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "The anomaly appears to be a deliberate construct, a gateway of sorts between our reality and something else." Holographic images flickered to life, showing twisted landscapes and impossible geometries. Several council members recoiled at the sight. Zorax continued the briefing. We believe these are the Voidborn, the race spoken of in our ancient legends. Their technology is beyond anything we have encountered, and their intentions. The High Warmaster paused, its voice dropping to a low rumble. They appear to be hostile. Murmurs of concern rippled through the council chamber. An elderly Zeracarian, its skin marked with the patterns of a high-ranking mystic, spoke up. The legends speak of the Voidborn as conquerors, beings who viewed all other life as resources to be harvested or eradicated, if they have truly returned. Then we face a threat unlike any we've encountered before, Sarah finished. But we won't face it alone. Humanity and the Zeracarians stand together. The human president nodded gravely. Ambassador Chen is right. We've come too far together to falter now. What do you propose? Sarah and Zorax exchanged a glance. They had discussed this at length, weighing every option. A joint task force, Sarah said. Our best scientists, our most skilled warriors, working together to understand this threat and develop countermeasures. And a diplomatic mission, Zorax added, surprising many in the room. We must attempt communication with the Voidborn. Perhaps conflict can still be averted. The council debated long into the night, weighing the risks and potential consequences of their actions. In the end, they agreed to the proposed plan. The fate of 2 civilizations, perhaps of the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah found herself once again standing with Zorax, looking out over the alien cityscape. The beauty of Zeraka seemed somehow fragile now, knowing what lurked at the edge of known space. Do you think we can win this? Sarah asked quietly, voicing the fear that had been gnawing at her since they first detected the anomaly. Zorax was silent for a long moment. I do not know, the High Warmaster admitted. The Voidborn possess technology and knowledge far beyond our own. But the alien turned to face Sarah, its eyes glowing with fierce determination. We have something they do not: unity, understanding, the strength that comes from standing together in the face of adversity. Sarah nodded, feeling a spark of hope kindle in her chest. You're right. We've already accomplished the impossible by bringing our peoples together. Who's to say we can't do it again? As they stood there, human and Zeracarian side by side, Sarah thought back to her choice in the cosmic crucible. She had chosen partnership, a future where their species faced the challenges of the cosmos together. Now, that choice would be put to the ultimate test. The Voidborn were coming. The very fabric of reality was under threat. But as Sarah looked at Zorax, at the city around them, at the stars above, she knew that they would face whatever came next as one. The battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity and the Zeracarians would meet it head-on, united in purpose and resolve. As the twin suns of Zeraka set, casting long shadows across the alien landscape, Sarah and Zorax began to plan. The greatest challenge of their lives lay ahead, but together, they just might have a chance at victory. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from the crucible of conflict to come. Battle for survival. The joint human-Zeracarian fleet hung in the inky blackness of space, a testament to the unprecedented cooperation between the two species. Sleek human vessels bristling with advanced weaponry flew in formation alongside the massive, organic-looking Zeracarian warships. At the heart of the fleet, the flagship Unity stood as a marvel of combined engineering, its hybrid systems a perfect blend of both civilizations' technologies. On the bridge of Unity, Sarah Chen stood beside Zorax, both of them gazing at the swirling, chaotic energies of the spatial anomaly. Months of preparation had led to this moment, yet Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were woefully unprepared for what lay ahead. Status report, Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the tension thrumming through her body. A human officer responded, all ships report ready, Ambassador. Weapons are hot, shields at maximum. Zorax nodded, its massive frame seemed to vibrate with nervous energy. Our mystics have erected psychic barriers around the fleet. They should offer some protection against the reality-warping effects of void-born technology. Sarah took a deep breath, and the diplomatic team. Standing by, a Zerkarian communications officer reported, "Though I fear their skills may go unused in this encounter." As if in response to their preparations, the anomaly before them pulsed, sending out waves of energy that made the very fabric of space ripple. Alarms blared across the fleet as sensors struggled to make sense of the readings. "Multiple contacts emerging," shouted the sensor officer. "Configuration unknown, but they're big, really big." Sarah and Zorax watched in horrified fascination as massive shapes began to emerge from the tear in reality. They defied easy description, their forms seeming to shift and change even as they materialized fully into normal space. Parts of them seemed to phase in and out of existence, while others glowed with an otherworldly energy that hurt to look at directly. "By the cosmic crucible," Zorax breathed. "The legends didn't do them justice." Sarah steeled herself. "Open a channel. Let's try diplomacy one last time." The communications officer worked frantically at her console. "Channel open, Ambassador. Broadcasting on all frequencies and using the translation matrices we developed." Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm and clear as she addressed the alien armada. "This is Ambassador Sarah Chen of the United Earth Government, speaking on behalf of the Human Zerkarian Alliance. We come in peace and seek dialogue." She was cut off by a sound that could only be described as reality itself screaming. The void-born ships surged forward, energy weapons unlike anything they had ever seen lancing out towards the Allied fleet. "Evasive maneuvers," Zorax roared. "All ships, return fire." The space around them erupted into chaos. Human and Zerkarian ships danced and weaved through the storm of energy blasts, their own weapons seeming pitiful in comparison. Yet they fought on, their coordinated tactics allowing them to strike at weak points in the void-born formations. Sarah gripped the command console, her mind racing. "Their technology is beyond us," she muttered. "We need to think outside the box." Zorax turned to her, its eyes glowing with battle fury. "What do you propose, Sarah Chen?" A plan began to form in Sarah's mind, crazy and desperate, but possibly their only hope. "The cosmic crucible," she said. "It showed us possible futures, gave us glimpses of knowledge beyond our understanding. What if we could use that power against the void-born?" Zorax's eyes widened in understanding. "A bold plan, but dangerous. The crucible is not a weapon, it's a test. Using it in this way could have unforeseen consequences. Do we have a choice?" Sarah asked, gesturing to the battle raging around them. Already, several Allied ships had been destroyed, their debris scattering across the battlefield. The High War Master was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, but we will need to get closer to Zerka. The Crucible's power is strongest there." Sarah turned to the helm. "You heard the War Master. Set a course for Zerka, maximum speed. All ships provide covering fire." The Unity surged forward, the rest of the fleet moving to protect it. Void-born ships gave chase, their impossible weapons tearing through space itself to reach them. As they approached Zerka, Sarah felt a familiar tingling sensation. The power of the cosmic crucible was reaching out, responding to their desperate need. "Now, Sarah Chen," Zorax bellowed. "Focus your will, your hopes for the future. The crucible responds to the strength of spirit." Sarah closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. She thought of Earth, of Zerka, of all the worlds and peoples that would fall if they failed here. She remembered her choice in the crucible, the path of partnership and unity. A blinding light filled the bridge, and Sarah felt herself falling into a void much like the one she had experienced during her trial. But this time she wasn't alone. She could feel the presence of every human and Zerkarian in the fleet, their hopes and fears intermingling with her own. Before them stretched infinite possibilities, futures where the Voidborn were defeated, where peace reigned across the galaxy, where life flourished in all its diverse forms. Sarah reached out, grasping at these possibilities, willing them into reality. The void around them shuddered, and Sarah heard the void-born scream, not in anger this time, but in fear. The creatures of chaos and unreality were being confronted with the power of unity, of two species choosing to stand together against the darkness. With a final titanic effort of will, Sarah pushed. The light of 1,000,000,000,000 possible futures burst forth, engulfing the void-born ships. Where it touched them, the strange vessels seemed to unravel, their impossible geometries collapsing in on themselves. When Sarah opened her eyes, she found herself back on the bridge of unity. The view screen showed empty space where the void-born fleet had been, with only a rapidly shrinking anomaly as evidence of their passage. Did we win? Someone asked, their voice shaky with disbelief. Zorax turned to Sarah, its eyes filled with a mix of awe and respect. We have driven them back for now, but I fear this is only the beginning of a larger conflict. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished, and what still lay ahead. Then we'll face it together, she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. Human and Zerkarian, united against whatever the universe throws at us. As the fleet regrouped and began the journey home, Sarah looked out at the stars. The battle was won, but the war for the future of the galaxy had only just begun. Yet, for the first time since the Voidborn had appeared, she felt a genuine sense of hope. Together, they had achieved the impossible, and together, they would forge a new destiny for all sentient life in the cosmos. A new era. In the months following the Battle of the Void, as it came to be known, the galaxy underwent a transformation unlike any in recorded history. News of the Voidborn threat and the united stand of humans and Zerkarians spread rapidly, reaching even the farthest corners of known space. Sarah Chen stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, a body comprising representatives from dozens of species that had come together in the wake of the Voidborn incursion. The Great Hall buzzed with a mix of languages and translators, a cacophony of diversity united by a common purpose. We stand at a crossroads, Sarah began, her voice carrying across the chamber. The Voidborn threat has been pushed back, but not eliminated. Our victory was hard-won and temporary. But in that moment of crisis, we discovered something profound, the power of unity. Zorax, standing beside her, nodded in agreement. For too long, our species have viewed the galaxy as a place of competition and conflict. But faced with a threat to all sentient life, we learned that our greatest strength lies in our differences, in the unique perspectives and abilities each of us brings to bear. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. Sarah continued, "That is why we propose the formation of a permanent galactic alliance, not just a military coalition, but a forum for cooperation in all fields, science, culture, governance, and yes, defense." The next few hours were filled with intense debate. Some species, long isolationist, balked at the idea of such close cooperation. Others, still nursing old grudges, were hesitant to trust former enemies. But as the discussion progressed, a sense of possibility began to take hold. A representative of the Etheri, a race of energy beings from the galactic core, spoke up. "We have observed your species for eons, believing you too primitive to join the greater galactic community. We see now that we were wrong. Your actions against the Voidborn have proven your worth. The Etheri stand with you." One by one, other species pledged their support. The reptilian Sekthig offered their mastery of bioengineering. The silicon-based Quartzians promised to share their expertise in faster-than-light communications. Even the notoriously xenophobic hive minds of the Outer Rim sent an emissary, drawn by the promise of a united front against existential threats. As the session drew to a close, the vote was nearly unanimous. The Galactic Alliance would become a reality, with Earth and Zerka as its founding members. Later, as Sarah and Zorax stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling alien cityscape that had grown around the council chambers, they allowed themselves a moment of quiet reflection. Did you ever imagine it would come to this? Sarah asked, gesturing at the diverse beings moving through the streets below. Species that had been mortal enemies mere months ago now worked side by side, sharing knowledge and building a common future. Zorax made a sound that Sarah had come to recognize as a chuckle. When I first met you, Sarah Chen, I thought your species barely worthy of conquest, let alone alliance. How far we have come. Sarah smiled, remembering the tension of those early days. We've all had to challenge our preconceptions. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? We're stronger together, not in spite of our differences, but because of them. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the distant hum of the city. Then Zorax spoke again, its voice uncharacteristically hesitant. The Voidborn will return. Of that I am certain. Sarah nodded, her expression growing serious. I know, but we'll be ready for them. Not just humans and Zerkarians this time, but a united galaxy. As if on cue, alert chimed on Sarah's communicator. It was a report from one of the joint research teams, a breakthrough in understanding Voidborn technology made possible by the combined efforts of 5 different species. You see, Sarah said, showing the report to Zorax, this is how we'll win, not just with weapons, but with knowledge, with understanding. Zorax's eyes gleamed with a mix of pride and determination. Indeed, we face an uncertain future, but we face it together. And that makes all the difference. As the sun set on this new galactic capital, casting the alien sky in shades of purple and gold, Sarah felt a profound sense of hope. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles they couldn't yet imagine. But they had taken the first crucial steps towards a truly united galaxy. The Voidborn had sought to tear reality apart, to dominate and destroy. But in doing so, they had inadvertently brought about something beautiful, a coalition of diverse beings, united in their determination to forge a better future for all. Sarah Chen, once a simple soldier from Earth, now stood at the heart of this new galactic civilization. As she looked out at the stars, no longer distant and unreachable, but filled with allies and friends, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one. The era of isolation and conflict was over. A new age of exploration, cooperation, and shared destiny had begun, and Sarah couldn't wait to see what wonders it would bring. As night fell on the galactic capital, lights began to twinkle in the alien sky. Not stars, but the engines of ships from 100 worlds, coming together to build something greater than any one species could achieve alone. It was a new dawn for the galaxy, and the possibilities were endless. The end, or perhaps just the beginning.